Here at Ralph Wilson Stadium in Western New York, Orchard Park to be exact, New England Patriots kick off the 2013 season with a 23-21 last-second win over the Buffalo Bills. I'm Mike Petraglia, joined as always by Patriots expert columnist Christopher Price. Chris, did the Patriots get away with one today?
They really did. I think this was a team that was a little bit ragged in the second half, but in the end, as Julian Edelman just told us in the locker room, a ragged win is better than a pretty loss. So I think the Patriots will take it, they'll escape, and they'll come away 1-0 in a little better team for it. I think it was a learning experience, I think, on both sides of the ball for them.
Chris, any fan that watched the first half of this game had to be thinking the Patriots could be up easily 24-0, and yet they found themselves in a ball game. And obviously the turnovers had a lot to do with that. Stephen Ridley putting the ball on the ground twice, one of which counted and was taken to the house by Denoris Cersei. It was really a shaky half in terms of the execution, the fundamentals, and that's really why the Patriots found themselves in trouble.
Well, there's also the Sudfeld fumble as well, and that ultimately led to some points for Buffalo. Really, Buffalo did a really good job taking advantage of the Patriots' turnovers. The Patriots were able to kind of absorb the blow, come back down the stretch, and ultimately come away with a victory. But the early turnovers, I think, were a little bit worrisome for this team, because this is not unlike them. Ridley, we've seen this in the past, though. It's important to, when you're talking about Ridley, we've seen this in the past. It's important to nip this in the bud sooner rather than later.
Asked in the locker room after the game if he thought he had lost his job and is now second string behind Shane Vereen, Stephen Ridley said, "Sure, I think I have, because now I have to earn my job back. You can't put the ball on the ground twice in the period of 16-20 minutes and expect to keep a #1 running back job in the NFL." But let's move on to the bright spot, the guy who took advantage of the opportunity, Shane Vereen. We expected big things from him. We talked about it last week previewing this game, but Shane Vereen came up huge.
He did. He really did, both when it comes to the passing game and the running game as well. I thought it was really interesting that they used him as a feature back, and I think his body type is such that it really doesn't lend itself to being a feature back over the course of a 16-game season, but in a get-you-over situation like this, I think it was more than enough. This was a guy who was really productive. Again, running the ball, working as an option out of the backfield. They put him in the slot, they split him out wide on a number of occasions. He was really a multi-dimensional offensive threat for him, and they leaned on him. They really needed him today.
A lot of people were worried when they saw late in the second quarter Danny Amendola grab for what it looked to be his right groin. He was listed as questionable during the week and limited in practice because of the groin, and then sure enough, second quarter he runs a crossing route in the end zone. He obviously injures himself, doesn't play the rest of the half, but comes back in the second half and lights the world on fire. And most importantly, as everybody wondered, could he be the replacement of Wes Welker? He was there when Tom Brady needed him.
Shane Vereen just told us in the locker room, Danny Amendola was a tough guy. He took some real hits on that fourth quarter drive that ended with a field goal. He was able to keep moving the chains. He was able to consistently make catches, hold on to the ball after absorbing some really brutal, vicious hits. You know, you can question a lot about Danny Amendola's injury history, but what he did today was really impressive. Again, the real measure will be going forward, especially on the short week. The Patriots have to turn it around quickly. They play on Thursday night against the Jets, if he'll be able to turn it around. But as for what happened today, you can't question what Danny Amendola did.
And Chris, I know you're writing this and don't mean to tease it too much or give away the plot line, as it were, too much, but you're writing about Julian Edelman and what kind of role he played in this game and what kind of role he could play going forward.
There was a real level of familiarity, I thought, early on, that Brady was going to go to Edelman over and over again. We saw the 2 touchdown passes, but there was a level of familiarity there that maybe wasn't there with some of the younger receivers, with some of the newer receivers. I know Amendola came on very well late, but Tompkins struggled at times. Sudfeld struggled at times. We saw the struggles of Ridley. And the chemistry between Brady and Edelman was really impressive, and I think they really needed to lean on it today, especially in the early going.
Obviously, this is a critical win, considering the fact the Patriots now have a very short week. Their home opener is Thursday night against the Jets. Obviously, they have an advantage, another division opponent they're very familiar with. But still, how important was it that Stephen Gostkowski's field goal split the uprights with 5 seconds to go and gave the Patriots a winning feeling on a short week?
In a division game, no less, too, and I think that's very important to remember as well. At the end of the day, the division wins are almost more important than your regular wins, especially when you're counting toward the end of the year. It's important to start the year on the right note. I think this is the 10th consecutive season where the Patriots have won their regular season opener. It's always important to get off on the right note. It's always important to get started, with a win, with a positive feeling. And I think the Patriots, in the end, they're going to have a lot to look at. They're going to have a lot to break down when it comes to the film. But I think in the end, this is a good one for the Patriots. Again, a lousy win, a ragged win is better than a pretty loss.
Indeed, Chris. Couldn't have said it better myself. It wasn't pretty, it was ugly, but in the end, it was the Patriots 23, the Buffalo Bills 21. For Christopher Price, I'm Mike Petraglia here at Ralph Wilson Stadium after the Patriots win their 2013 season opener. See you next Thursday, WEEI.com.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect.